right, evening. Okay, try it one more time. Evening, everybody. Evening. Hey, it is so good to have you guys up here, and we're so glad you joined us. I just want to say real quick, something that's coming up here on May 5th is we as a church are trying to help in memory of a young man by the name of Camden King, and that is to collect some pints of blood. So if you would love to give some blood, donate some blood, on May 5th, we're going to have a blood mobile. I don't know what they call it, but some sort of blood-sucking machine out there. And we're going to do that from 8 to 2. And if you want to sign up, you can go outside at the next steps. They'll help you sign up. But we're doing it in memory of Camden King. For those of you who've come to this church in the last 2.5 years, let me just say you missed out on meeting one of the most incredible young men ever. The Kings adopted him into their family, and we were able to have him in the Crossings life for about 3 years. And I want to tell you, for such a young, small 7-8-year-old guy, he made a huge impact on this church. Huge. He had quick wit. He was someone who had a spiritual depth about him for a 7-year-old that just blew me away. Honestly, it would put a lot of people who've been lifelong believers to shame. That was Camden. And Camden ended up graduating and going to heaven on April 2nd, 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago in 2016. But we're doing this kind of in his memory and in his honor. So if you would like to donate some blood, if you can donate blood, then join Cindy and I. We always do it. We actually try to race to see who can fill up their bag faster. So if you want to do that, go to Next Steps, and we'll go from there. Last weekend was absolutely an amazing weekend here at the Crossing. Hopefully you were here. You got a chance to celebrate, whether it was Thursday night, Tenebrae, where it was very quiet, reflective kind of time that kind of really helped us to dial in. It's kind of like the Easter version of a candlelight service, where with Advent you light candles. Well, this was one where the candles went out, and which symbolized the death of Christ. Then on Saturday, we had an Easter egg hunt over at Batavia Township Park, where Sarah Davidson, our children's pastor, and our staff, mainly Casey, who's our marketing director, and Jenny and some of our staff, the women's ministry, the outreach ministry, and Rotary all partnered together on a rainy, misty Saturday morning, and yet we still had well over 1,000 people, served about 1,000 free hot dogs, lots of bottled water, and probably an inch or two of rain. But it was an amazing, amazing event. There were 34 plus waterlogged servants from the church here that showed up to do that. And so we're very, very blessed to be a part of that. And then if you were here for Saturday night or two of our Sunday morning Easter services, you got a chance, especially if you were on time, to see us start that service off with a bang, right? It was just an incredible, incredible time of worship. And man, I cannot say how proud I am as a pastor to be a part of a church family that has such an incredible group of servants that are very sacrificial in the way they serve. And I want to tell you, our worship team, there's a lot of great worship teams out there in the country, but most of them are completely all paid to do what they do. Our worship team is 98% volunteer. And when you think about that, they do not take a backseat to anyone. And I will say the great thing about them is they don't come out here to entertain us. They don't come out here like it's a gig. They come out here to lead us on a journey alongside of them to worship God. And Jay is an incredible leader who's not afraid to step back and let other people lead. And there's not a lot, there's a lot of people I know that can be a little bit diva-ish or have an ego or whatever. I think that's one of the reasons our worship team, and there's a lot of them on our team, is special, is because they don't have that. They just want to come out here and invite us along in a journey. And I'm just so blown away by that and impressed with our entire church family. I mean, God is doing things up here on the hill, and I don't know if you believe that or not, but things are happening, things are moving, and we're glad you're a part of it. So, as you saw with the little creepy intro, we're in a series called Just a Little Sin. But on January 12th, 1997, there were two Swiss men, Bertrand Piccard and Brian Jones, who began a quest to do something that had never been done before. They wanted to fly all the way around the globe in a hot air balloon. Now, obviously, in order to do this, it wasn't just a normal hot air balloon with, a wicker basket and a flame. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in this hot air balloon. As a matter of fact, with all the latest technology, it was $1.5 million that they put into this hot air balloon to make it all the way around the globe. But it wasn't long after their very first journey with this balloon that it actually went down. There was kerosene smell that was filling up the cabin, and so they had to ditch it in the Mediterranean. And so they went down. They obviously survived. But what was interesting was when it was all said and done, the $1.5 million hot air balloon was brought down by a hose clamp that would have cost $1.16 at Lowe's. $1.5 million. I mean, we're talking about an entire life plan, lots of missions, all these things that, a dream, $1 million dream and life's work, and it's all brought down by a tiny $1.16 part. Well, today, as I said, we're starting this brand new series called Just a Little Sin. And while we are not trying to circumnavigate the globe in a hot air balloon, the reality is we are trying to make it through this world. And I think a lot of times we are very cognizant of the big sins. There are the big sins that we try to avoid. We try our best to not do the big sins, but I wonder if it's not the tiny $1.16 variety sins that are the ones that are going to eventually bring us down. If you know what I mean? And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about. There are big sins that I think all of us will say, oh yeah, that's wrong. But then there are those little minor infractions that we all kind of fall prey to that we kind of deal with. And some of them are pretty dangerous. Even though they're small, they can be huge problems. And so today, I'm kicking it off with lying. And so I can't really see you that well because of the smoke. That's another reason why our worship teams, they do marijuana back in the back right before. That's why they're very chill. So just kidding. That's a joke, all right? And it's really bad what I just said there because it was a lie. And tonight I'm talking about lying, okay? So just out of curiosity, how many people have lied? Raise your hand. Okay, now if you do not have your hand up right now, I am so glad you are here. Because you should be here, because you're a liar. Because we've all lied. Every single one of us has lied. The Bible says that lying is this practice to deceive, to create deceit, falsehood, or basically a lie is the exact opposite of the truth. It is blatant disregard of facts for the deliberate deception to others in order to serve my own purposes. So if I lie to you, I'm lying to you because I want something for me. Whether it's self-preservation, whatever, it's to pull it over. Sometimes we lie by not sharing the truth. Believe it or not, there are things that we know should happen or is going to happen, and if we do not share it, then that is also considered lying when sharing the truth is more appropriate. We also lie to cover up things we just don't want other people to know. But what is interesting, like we saw in this video up here, is we've all lied, and it starts at a very young age. I don't think any of us were ever taught how to lie. We just kind of pick it up naturally. Isn't it amazing how good liars well, at least they thought they were, right? But we've all learned it very young. I can remember as a kid one of the most dreadful sayings that you did not want to be on the receiving end of, and that is, liar, liar, pants on fire, nose is longer than a telephone wire. Did anybody remember that? I did not want to be that. Now today it'd probably be liar, liar, pants on fire, nose is taller than a cell phone tower, probably. But the whole idea was you did not want to hear that when you were a kid. You did not want people pointing at you and telling you that you are calling you a liar, especially when you were young. When my daughters were young, and I asked Becca about this, and she said it was Hannah. So I don't know if she's telling the truth or not. She may be lying too. But when they were young, I was interrogating one of them because one of them was flat out lying, and I was trying to get them to come clean, sort of like in the video there. And they were, I mean, no matter how hard I interrogated, they were like, nope, I did not do it, I did not do it. So I said, well, you know what happens when you lie? Your ears start to turn red. And so I'm going to ask you again, did you do this? And she said, nope. Now, what is interesting is notice how I concocted a lie in order to out her because, the reality is that's really not true, okay? It doesn't really happen. If I told you that your ears turn red, I would have to do this because that would be a lie, right? But it's interesting how we do that. We get caught in lies, and sometimes when we get caught in lies, like, oh, no, I was just kidding. I was just kidding. Or it was just a fib. Or I was just stretching the truth. Or it was just a little white lie. I heard someone say that for some reason, lies are the only ones that we assign colors to. You know, we don't say it was just a little red theft. It was just some blue adultery. We don't say that, but it was just a little white lie. And in 2019, in our culture, in our society, there are all kinds of words or phrases or brand new terminology that we've come up with that basically is a pleasant way of saying they lied. And you know what I'm going with this. First of all, we probably have heard terms like fake news or alternative facts. And basically, when we use the term fake news or alternative facts, it's basically whoever's using that term is saying that the other side is being a little loose with the truth. You know what I'm saying? We use the term that if we're going to tell partial truth, just enough truth, we call that spin. You know, we've done some spin. When we lie to hide or cover up certain parts of the truth that we think are damaging to us, what do we call that? We call that information management. We're just managing the information so that we make sure that the things that are damaging me do not get out. When we lie by purposefully speaking in vague terms so that we can later say, well, it meant what I meant was, well, that's called hedging our words. So isn't it amazing how we can come up with all these creative terms, but the reality is no matter how you dress it up, it's still a lie. And lying's easy to do. Leonard Sweet wrote a newsletter called Soul Cafe, and he listed the top lies of liars. Now, I want you to listen to these. The top lies of liars. Here's one. Okay, we're just going to stay 5 minutes. That's usually a lie. It's going to be a very short meeting. I'll respect you in the morning. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you. This is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. Your table will be ready in just a minute. I'm going to start exercising, dieting, or fill in the blank tomorrow, or Monday. It's a lie. And here's the thing. There are lies in church as well. Like I've heard, well, you just might see me there next Sunday, Pastor. I never see him. Hey, this is just between me and you. Or how about this one? And this may hit me a little too close to home, but when the preacher says finally or in closing or wrapping it up, that's a lie. I actually heard from HUD that when I said this past weekend, I'm going to let Peter have the last word, he looked at someone and said, no, he won't. No, he won't. Now, here's the thing. Before you're quick to judge me, some of you have lied since you have been here or have been lied to. For example, someone said, so how are you doing tonight? And you probably said good, great, or fine, couldn't be better. And for some of you, that might be the truth, but for some of you, that's a lie because that's not true. You're not good. You're not great. You're not fine. As a matter of fact, you're struggling with something. We have greeters. We have an incredible first impressions team and greeter team out there that make you feel very welcome. And sometimes, I have to say, they probably twist the truth a little bit too, because sometimes they say, man, it is so great to see you here. We are so glad you're here. When what they really meant is we are so stunned that that person is actually here. It is like a miracle. That's not true. I know our team doesn't think that way. But if you are here this evening, then you are sitting in the midst of a company of liars. Men, that fish you caught last year gets bigger and bigger every time you tell the story. Ladies, some of you are celebrating that same birthday for 5 years consecutively now. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most of us lie when we sign or initial a box that says, I certify that I've read the above information. Any questions concerning these policies have been discussed. My signature also certifies my understanding of an agreement with the above policies. And it's a whole lot of stuff. And for some reason, we check the box that we agree or accept, and there's no way we read it in 1 second flat. You know what I'm saying? This weekend, or maybe last weekend, somebody came to the table and said, so how is it? How's your meal? You know, the meal that maybe there was a hair or a fly or it was undercooked or overcooked. And most of the time when you say, good, it's good, it's fine. Most of the time. There's others. Dad, you promised to spend more time with your kids or to come home earlier, and you don't. And how many parents have ever lied because if they're 5 and under, it's free, but if it's 6 and older, it's $25. And you've got a 7-year-old who looks very much like they're 5. So how many times you said, just stay with your dad, all right? We'll take care of this. Or just shut your mouth. Yes, we have two, we have one that's 2 and one that's 5. And of course the 7-year-old's like, no, I'm this, it's like, but we'll do it because we want to save $25. How about, let's see, where's some others? Speaking of age, anybody own a fake ID or lie in order to score a little Natty Light and Jägermeister? You know what I'm saying? Any bosses in the house that's promised your employees a raise and just haven't got around to it yet? And before you all start saying, yeah, stick it to the man. Any employees here who called in on a Monday or had a little springitis on a nice pretty day because the allergies are acting up, when, let's face it, quite honestly, you could have done it. You could have went to work. You see, we all do it. And in case, I'm just going to say in front of you that I owe a lot of you an apology, because if you're Facebook friends of me, and if you're on social media, I'm going to admit right now that there have been many times I have said LOL and I did not laugh out loud. I'm just going to tell you that. I did not laugh out loud. So in a sense, I need to come clean with you, because some of you are probably thinking, he really thought that was funny, and I didn't. But for some reason, I typed LOL on there. I know some of you are stunned that, and this is going to cause a crisis of faith, but we preachers are known to stretch the truth or lie a little bit. We are. So how many did you have in attendance? Well, maybe you had 619, but for some reason you say, oh, we had 630, 640. Or you lost 12 pounds, but you tell everybody else you lost 15. But you've lost 12. It's not like it was questioned. We do it all the time. And by the way, in case you're curious, we did have the largest attendance last weekend in crossing history. We had between 2,000 and 3,000 people here that weekend. Isn't that amazing? And that sounds incredible, between 2,000 and 3,000, right? But really what it is we had, show up next slide, please. We had 1,743, which is between 2,000 and 3,000. So see what I just did there? We had between 2,000 and 3,000. Now what I did is I told you the truth, because 1,743 is between 2,000 and 3,000, I mean, anybody want to disagree with that? But it sure made it sound even a lot better than it really was. Now, we still had the largest attendance in crossing history. But it's amazing how we can sometimes spin things to sound even better than they are, even though we're telling the truth. The late Wayne Smith, he was a pastor, and I'll never forget this story, because he talked about it was kind of a spoof kind of thing called The Art of Lying. And he said that there was a lady that brought them a pie, and they took one bite of that pie, and it was the most awful tasting thing they have ever tasted in their life. And so they took one bite, could not stand it, and threw it immediately in the trash. Well, the next week, of course, the lady asked the question, so how did you like the pie? And he didn't want to hurt her feelings, so he said this, let me tell you, a pie that tastes like that doesn't last very long in the Smith house. And she kind of blushed, and the next week he got another one, and another one. Why is being honest, even with the most simplest of things, so hard? Again, I get a 93 on the test, but I tell someone I got a 97 or a 95. Why is lying so easy and telling the truth so hard? Well, if you look at John chapter 8, and I'd really encourage you to read the entire chapter, which starts out with Jesus is at the temple or hanging around the temple, and they bring the woman that's committed adultery, and they're going to ask him. So it starts off with that, and many of you are familiar with that story. Let who's not sinned cast the first stone. But it goes on, and I think it's a great chapter because it kind of really does. Jesus is telling them who he is. He is basically talking about his identity, who he is. So I would just really encourage you to just take some time and read John chapter 8, the entire, and just let it kind of sit with you. But I'm not going to read the whole exchange, but I want to encourage you to. But I do want to pick up in verse 23, because he's teaching people around the temple. And in verse 23, Jesus continued, you are from below, I am from above. You belong to the world, I do not. That is why I said that you will die in your sins. For unless you believe that I am who I claim to be, you will die in your sins. They asked, well, who are you? Jesus replied, the one I have always claimed to be. I have much to say about you and much to condemn, but I won't. For I say only what I have heard from the one who sent me, and he is completely truthful. In other words, I am only telling you the truth. I have told you the truth from the very beginning. If you jump down to 31, Jesus said to the people who believed in him, you are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. But we are descendants of Abraham, they said, because these are the Pharisees. These are the religious leaders. These are Jews, of course. And they're like, but we are descendants of Abraham. We have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean we will be set free? And Jesus replied, I tell you the truth. Everyone who sins is a slave of sin. A slave is not a permanent member of the family, but a son is part of the family forever. So if the son sets you free, then you are free indeed. You are truly free. Now, drop down to 42. Jesus tells them, the Pharisees, who are arguing with him about this whole thing, because they hold Abraham on this pedestal. He's the Jewish father, and they think what he is saying is blasphemy. And they say, if God were your father, you would love me because I have come to you from God. So if you say that you belong to God, then you would love me because that's who I've come from. I am not here on my own, but he sent me. So why can't you understand what I'm saying? It's because you can't hear me. Now to this point, I want you to understand. What Jesus has said so far is that he's completely truthful. And if you remain faithful to my teachings, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free from slavery, from bondage, from sin. And then he says again, I tell you the truth. And then in verse 44, he shows a very stark contrast between his identity and the identity of the devil. Verse 44, for you are the children of your father, the devil, and you love to do the evil things he does. He was a murderer from the beginning. He has always hated the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, it is consistent with his character, for he is a liar. He is the father of lies. So when I tell the truth, you naturally don't believe me. And Jesus answered, if I want glory for myself, it doesn't count. But it is my Father who will glorify me. You say he is our God, but you don't even know him. I know him. I know him. If I said otherwise, I would be as great as a liar as you. But I know him, and I obey him. Now here's the key point. And that's a lot to digest. But why is it so easy for us to lie? And why is it so difficult for us to tell the truth? Well, the answer is because telling the truth is the fundamental character. It is who God is. God is truth. And Satan's fundamental character and what is natural for him is lies. Now, I'm not already throwing us under the bus and saying we're all possessed of Satan, but the reality is God is truth. He is truth. It's not that he tells the truth, he is truth. Numbers 23:19. God is not a man, so he does not lie. 1 Samuel 15:29. He who is the glory of Israel does not lie. Romans 3:4 in the New Testament. Even if everyone else is a liar, God is true. Titus 1:2 the New Testament. This truth gives them confidence that they have eternal life, which God, who does not lie. Hebrews 6:18. So God has given both his promise and his oath. These two things are unchangeable because it is impossible for God to lie. There is a stark contrast between God, who it is impossible to lie, his word is truth, he is truth, and the father of lies, who lying is who he is. And so, the reason I wanted to establish that is because even though we think lying sometimes is a itsy-bitsy tiny little sin, God takes lying extremely seriously. Because when we lie, we look absolutely nothing like him. we look nothing like him because he is truth. When we lie, we become a spitting image of the liar, the father of lies. So we either reflect the Father who is truth, or we reflect the father of lies. So Scripture treats lying with the utmost seriousness because God is truth, and to lie is to despise the truth, or you could go as far as saying to lie is to despise God because God is truth. Look how strongly he feels about it. Proverbs 6, verse 16, 19. Solomon writes, there are 6 things the Lord hates. No, 7 things he detests. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that kill the innocent, a heart that plots evil, feet that race to do wrong, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who sows discord in a family. There's 2 times there that lying is included. So it is important that if we are going to be followers of the truth, rather than followers of the father of lie, then we have to pursue being truth tellers. We have to pursue being truth tellers. And so here's a couple quick reasons, or a few quick reasons of why that's important. First of all, being a truth teller will demonstrate that my life has changed. If I become someone who strives to tell the truth, it is going to show there's been a change in my life. Colossians 3, Paul talks about this in verse 9. Don't lie to each other. Don't lie to each other, for you have stripped off your old sinful nature and all its wicked deeds. Put on your new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become like him. In other words, stop lying. That's your old nature. That's when you were emulating the father of lies. You have become a new creation. You are new. You've renewed. You need to put on and behave more like him. We're called to relearn and become more like the Creator. 1 John 1, 5 and 6. This is the message we heard from Jesus, and now we declare to you, God is light, and there is no darkness in him at all. So we are lying. We are lying if we say we have fellowship with God, but go on living in spiritual darkness. We are not practicing the truth. Jesus says this in Matthew 5 on the Sermon on the Mount, verse 37. Jesus says, just say a simple yes, I will, or no, I won't. Anything beyond this is from the evil one. In other words, if your bond is your word, if your integrity, if you have integrity, then when you say yes, you mean yes. When you say no, you mean no. You shouldn't have to, I swear on my mother's grave. Pinky swear, you know? Or the old kid, cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye. I mean, if your yes is yes and your no is no, you should never have to convince someone that you're telling the truth by adding a swear to it. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. So let me just give you some context about that. So if we say to someone we're going to pray for them, then we better pray for them. Otherwise, come up with some other thing that you're going to do instead. Because I know that there have been many times I've written praying for you, and then I've gotten on with my stuff and forgot to stop right then and do it. That's just a small example of our yes being yes and our no being no. If you say that you're going to do it, then do it. Deliver. Billy Sunday once said this, an excuse is a skin of a reason stuffed with a lie. Now what that means is many times excuses are lies we tell ourselves or others as to why we did not keep our word. You know, let me give you some examples there. Man, that's great. And if I had more time and more money, I'd do that. Would you? Would you really do that? Or are you just saying that in order to look good? I mean, how many times have we done that? Oh man, I'd do that. Yeah, I'd do that too if I do that too. But I would do it if I could. But would you? Or are you just saying that to make an impression? Because to be honest, for us to be truthful, we not only need to be truthful with our words, but we have to be truthful with our actions as well. Our actions must match our language. Otherwise, we begin to lack the integrity to back up the truth. You know, if you want to have a powerful testimony in today's world, in today's society, here's how you have a powerful one. You basically not only show them that God has changed you to where you become a truth teller, because in this culture of lies, that stands out. It stands out to be a truth teller in a culture of lies. And everything Jesus said was truth. So if we are a new creation made in his image, then we should do everything we can to pursue telling the truth. The second thing is truth provides peace and protection. Philippians 4:8-9. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about those things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. Let me break that down in simplest terms. And really, Mark Twain, who is credited for this quote, says, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. How many of us have a difficult time having peace in our lives because there is a lie that we are still trying to cover? And every time that situation gets close, we have to retrace our steps of, now what did I say? Where was I? What was going on? What was my alibi? If you tell the truth, you don't have to always remember that, because you're just always going to tell the facts. You're going to tell the truth. Paul Harvey, he tells a story about 4 boys that were late for class. And they actually show up about 5 minutes before class was over with because they've been goofing off. But when they get in there, they see the rest of the class was taking a test. And so they tell their teacher, hey, we're sorry, we're late, but we had to stop and change a flat tire. And the teacher said, oh, well, that's terrible. I'll tell you what, I'm going to let you go ahead and make up this test. So if you'll just stick around as soon as the bell, and I will help you make up the test. They're like, oh, yes, we dodged the bullet. So when it's time, said, all right, I want you to go to that corner, that corner, that corner. Turn your backs to one another. And if you can answer this one question, I will give you an A. Which tire was it? Right, left, front, back. Which tire was it? See, if we tell the truth, we don't have to remember anything. If we're telling the truth, all 4 boys would remember which tire it was. And truth brings peace, but it also brings protection. One of when we talk about putting on the full armor of God, when Paul talks about that, one of the first pieces that we put on is the belt of truth. Ephesians 6:10-17. A final word, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on all of God's armor so that you'll be able to stand firm against all the strategies of the devil. Remember, he's a liar. He's a deceiver. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in the dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. Therefore, put on every piece of God's armor so that you'll be able to resist the enemy in the time of evil. And then after the battle, you will be standing firm, standing your ground, putting on the belt of truth. You see, the belt of truth is the first thing we put on. Because if we don't have the truth, we're lost. If we don't have the truth, we're done. And so it's first. And remember, we are dealing with a schemester, a huckster, someone who all he does is lie. That is his trade. That is his sweet spot. And he is so good at lying. And so many of us have bought into his lies. You have this stinking thinking going on in your head where he has just gotten in your head. And here's the thing, I say this all the time. The reason these voices in our head are so convincing is because Satan doesn't use some scary, creepy voice. He uses ours. He uses our voice to deceive us. He uses our voice to tell us, you're done, you're history, you're toast, you're not qualified, you're lost, you've screwed up one too many times, you're out. He'll never take you back. And yet we hear it in our voice. But it is the master manipulator who Satan is trying everything he can to get us to believe the lies. When what we need to do is be in this, because this is the Word of God. And if you remember, God is truth. Truth. So if you want to know the truth, then hang out with the one who is truth. If you want to listen to the lies, then continue to hang out with, stay away from this, and just listen to the master liar. Jesus prayed for us in John 17:17. Make them holy by your truth. Teach them your word, which is truth. Number 3, truth identifies you with Christ. Truth is a person, and his name is Jesus. John 14:6, Jesus tells him, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. You cannot come to the Father except through me. So for the believer in Jesus, for us as believers, if you are a believer, then your testimony is eternally important. The question is, do our actions, do our words match what we're saying? Or is our credibility called into question? You see, here's why it is important. All of us are called to share the most important truth in all of eternity. And that is this: Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the way, Jesus is the truth, and Jesus is the life. But if the rest of our life is unbelievable, if the rest of our lives is nothing but lies, then why would they ever believe you when you tell them the most important truth there is? That Jesus is who you need. Jesus is who changed my life. Oh, really? Well, I don't see a difference. You see, it's so important. Too much is at stake eternally in not only our lives, but the lives of those around us. Finally, and this is the final thing, and this is the truth. Finally. I mean this. Finally. That's the truth. Finally. I didn't do that. Truth frees. Jesus told them in the temple in John 8:31-32, Jesus said to the people who believed in him, you are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. If you know the truth, if you know Jesus, then the truth, Jesus, will set you free. So, what's that mean if you don't know the truth? You see, the opposite is true. If you don't know the truth, if you don't have truth, then you're not free, you're in bondage. You're in prison. Just like Jesus said, those who are not with the Father are slaves to sin. And so the question is if you want freedom, then what you're looking for is the truth, the way, the life, and that's Jesus. Without him, then you won't be free. You will continue to be in bondage and captivity of sin. I started by talking about that failed mission. Well, those two guys eventually went around the globe because they learned from their mistake. And so for you, maybe you're someone here who your mistake has been that you have not accepted the way, the truth, and the life. And I'm going to give you the opportunity. I'm going to invite you today to meet up here at the crosses as we have people who will pray with you, who would love to talk with you. And for the rest of us who maybe have been believers for a long time, then we need to be a lot more careful when it comes to being loose with the truth. Because when we lie, we look more like Satan. When we tell the truth, we look like our Father, who is the truth. So let me pray, and then as we sing our last song, let me invite you, if you like prayer or if you want to talk more about Jesus, we would love to talk to you. So let's pray. God, forgive us for the times that we We are not trustworthy. We are not truthful. God, forgive us for the times that we claim to be a follower of yours, but we look nothing like you. God, you know it is tough. That is why you have given us your son, Jesus. So God, I pray for those here who are maybe trying to make it through this world without him, that they would actually give him a real serious look. And maybe they're still not sure. That maybe for them, as Jay has said many times, that they would just begin by just saying, I don't know if you're real or not, but if you are, I just want to know. Because he is the way, he is the truth, he is the life. And he came and he laid down his life so that we could be free. Free from death. And so God, I pray for each and every one of us as we are trying to navigate this life, this world, that something even as small or tiny seemingly as a lie, that we would stop trying to be loose with the truth. Be with us, God, not only this week, but God, be with us as we continue through this series, because there's going to be some other things we're going to talk about that is going to be up in all of our grills. And God, I just pray that you would give whoever is here the opportunity to hear your word and to respond to it. I pray this in the name of Jesus.